It's been a long time since I've talked about Nagoshi, the man behind the Yakuza series, the guy who spent the past decade crying about how Yakuza could never succeed on Nintendo platforms, how Nintendo was for children, and how Yakuza was too mature for the Nintendo demographic. It caused people like me to really resent him and call him a loser and really make it known just how deep the hatred and jealousy of Nintendo among mediocre Japanese developers actually is. Because this was a guy who worked on F-Zero GX, who worked on Super Monkey Ball, who should have known very well that Nintendo was on the up and up, that they had the best talent, the best hardware, but no, he threw it all away for Yakuza. One of the most mediocre, played out, repetitive, derivative action RPGs ever produced, right? Yakuza is complete trash, carried only by weebs and people who genuinely believe that this kind of soap opera style writing is somehow inspirational or creative, right? Like, Yakuza was always trash. And with the recent success of Yakuza Kiwami on Nintendo Switch, it seems as if the era of the franchise staying off of Nintendo platformers no matter what is over. But the reason for this, the reason this happened, the reason this got ported over was because Nagoshi left Sega in order to start his own company. He got a job working for NetEase, a Chinese company that you may know for being involved with Grasshopper Manufacture and being a major shareholder in Platinum Games, right? NetEase is a cancer. Like all Chinese developers, they are actively trying to ruin the Japanese gaming industry. And the thing they tried to do over the past 5 years or so is they got involved with a bunch of high-profile Japanese traders and told them that we're going to give you money, we're going to support you, we're going to let you do whatever you want. You don't have to be controlled by the evil Nintendo or the executives at their companies. So, people like Suda51, people like Platinum Games, Atsushi Inaba from Platinum Games, people like, Nagoshi. They all decided to sign a deal with the devil and start producing games for the Chinese. And this ended exactly how you may expect. Nagoshi has been cut off. NetEase has cut off their contract. He's not producing anything. He's not getting the results they wanted. And so they severed ties with this fraud. And it's safe to say the same thing is going to happen to Grasshopper. The same thing is going to happen to Platinum, right? This is what you do when you believe what the Chinese tell you, right? These developers were desperate. They were anxious. They did everything they possibly could to stay off of Nintendo hardware so they could keep producing real video games on non-Nintendo platforms in the hopes that they could just, kind of spend decades, taking millions of dollars and not producing anything of value. But, whether it's, Grasshopper or Platinum or Nagoshi, the end result is always the same, right? They lose all their credibility, fans start to resent and hate them, and there is no recovery from this, right? Whatever legacy these developers had over the past 10, 20 years, it's all gone now. Because they failed to do the simplest possible thing, support Nintendo hardware, and instead desperately tried to keep the PlayStation method of making the same thing over and over again, on a small budget, and then just spending all your free time banging whores viable, because that's what Nagoshi was doing, right? He wasn't evolving the Yakuza formula, right? He wasn't pushing forward on the storyline or developing the characters in any meaningful way. No, what he was doing was using the franchise to bang Gyaru whores. This is what he was doing. He was spending his free time, he was put in charge of Sakura Wars, that bombed, he oversaw like a Puyo Puyo tournament, spent the entire time like, talking trash about the players, calling them virgins. Yeah, because they don't use their $1 million positions at major corporations to bang whores, okay? He talks badly about monkey ball fans, like, oh, you're just a bunch of man children, right? Nagoshi is a fucking retard, okay? I've always said this. I've always been like very vocal about this. He's a poser who wants people to think he's actually part of the Yakuza, right? He is a man-child, okay, who desperately wants to be cool, who desperately wants to, like, just enjoy, like, the good life without having to work for it. And that's not how this works, okay? And I'm definitely glad to see that the NetEase deal has fallen through. I'm glad we're probably not going to hear from this guy ever again, and no one's going to talk about him. Nobody cares. It's definitely a repeat of what we saw with last decade with figures like Keiji Inafune, who left Capcom, to make Mighty Number 9, and just saw like a similar kind of collapse, like it's the same mindset, this idea that you could just go independent, get some investor to invest in your company so you can keep like supporting PlayStation and Xbox instead of Nintendo. It's not going to work. You're never going to have the support or the player base in order to do that. And you're seeing this happen more and more frequently. Like Celeste is a really recent example, of an indie developer that was hugely successful just falling off in a matter of years because like nobody did sign the contract, nobody knew who owned what, right? You have situations like Disco Elysium, a game made by commies, that has an audience of commies that ended up being eaten up by capitalists who like screwed them out of the property, right? You have situations like that, Marvelous right now with like they're going woke and like them rooting the Rune Factory IP. Like no matter what these developers do or what they try to do, like what they try to weasel out of, like they are never going to be successful by producing bad video games, right? They really are going to have to think long and hard about like how to actually make games that people want to play. That is the most important thing in this business, and none of them seem to understand or respect that. That, like, if they're going to make a product worth playing, they're gonna have to put in the work. And people like Nagoshi need to get it through their heads that what they've been doing is not viable. And this should be a major wake-up call for the rest of the industry that you cannot trust the Chinese in any way, shape, or form.